Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, the Fit in the Fab channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. A very interesting topic today. And I'm laughing because, my guest is kind of threw us off, in his concept. And he's going to definitely take us on a ride that we probably are going to be like, what the hell? I mean, we've talked about a lot of topics in fitness. We've talked a lot of things in different wellness and even, different modalities of fitness, right? And I've never had someone on that actually dedicated a discussion to yoga. And we all hear yoga, and it's pretty common, and it's hot. We hear a lot hot yoga. You go to gym, you see that. Yoga dresses, whatever pants. I mean, it's pretty hot, in the fashion business, or at least the sports stuff. But what is yoga? And the concept of yoga, we all think it's that thing that helps us stretch, helps us get better, and just, do some these poses, whatever, bird pose, whatever, different things. And then you feel good about yourself. And so today I have with me someone who actually created a whole different concept about yoga. And he's got a whole different style about it. And he is it's going to be almost controversial to all the yogis out there. I think this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, to many. But I think what I love about the discussion that we're going to have today is that there are always different views, different perspectives, different angles. Not always what we know. There's always a new way. And just because we are used to something doesn't mean that's the only way that is out there, right? So with me, and without any further ado, that was a long intro. I have with me Yogi A.Y.A.M.A, all the way from Costa Rica. And he is literally a pioneer in his own world. I mean, he is a yogi, a master, I would call him. But he's got a different, non-conventional, I could say, or unorthodox approach. But I'll let him discuss that with us. So first things first, Yogi A.Y.A.M.A, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for that great intro. I really appreciate it.
Listen, I mean, I had to think about how to present this one because it is a hot topic, and I actually I've been in martial arts, and the topic of stretching is always part of the discussion. We do have a fitness, brand, the Fit in the Fab, and again, there's always some discussion about stretching before, after, and there's that. But also we know that working out usually has other ramifications, and there's also pain. There's all muscle, blah 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 blah. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff, and many schools of thoughts out there. But your angle is so unique. So before we get into the deep dive here, first things first, as always, who is Yogi A.Y.A.M.A? You're in Costa Rica. I know that that's not when it started. And so let's talk about where was Yogi A.Y.A.M.A before and why Costa Rica? Because I think Costa Rica is a beautiful place. And it has to do probably with the environment there. So we can start with that, and then let's deep dive into like the conventional or non-conventional discussion that we're gonna have today.
Sure. I mean, I'm from originally Canada, and I actually grew up in the wilderness, almost in Canada. I started off in Victoria and then went to Vancouver. And then my parents shipped me off to boarding school, a boys' boarding school where we dog sled, we snowshoed. I spent, my time hiking, and we always ended the year with a 3-week canoe trip in the wilderness, literally. So that was kind of like my intro to life. And it really, I think that kind of really hardened me in a very strong, made me a lot stronger and more inwardly resilient. So whenever I put my mind to something, Like it just, it just happens. And then to kind of like jump ahead, I moved to New York when I was around 28 years old. I lived there for 10 years and I started leading yoga retreats. And one of the places I was leading yoga retreats was in Costa Rica. And I would bring groups of my students with me. And as I was driving down the road to where I was holding the retreat, I came across this property. And it was literally a drive-by. Like I didn't even stop the car. I just drove by. But that split moment of like looking through the gates and seeing the property and the ocean, it was like a turquoise ocean through this tunnel of bougainvilleas. And I was like, that's my home. And that just started this whole like Costa Rican adventure.
Well, first of all, you just described probably what anyone listening, watching right now, probably the dream, kind of place to live. I mean, all
Yes.
the picture is just I can just imagine nice little house, the trees, and you have that blue turquoise, behind, oh man, that's like it's like one of those, backdrops that you would put. But you have a real one.
Costa Rica is such a magical place. And one of the things I love about this country is like you can be up in the mountains and then an hour later you can be on the beach, or vice versa. You can be on the beach and then an hour later you can be in the mountains. And I have a couple of my best friends visiting me right now, and they're staying with me at the yoga retreat. But then this weekend, I'm going to take them for about a 3-day trip around Costa Rica, like a very quick trip because it's only 3 days. But I was telling somebody like how many we're going to go, like I think to 6 waterfalls. And, like
Wow.
for most people, like getting to one waterfall in their lifetime is an accomplishment. We're going to be hitting like 6 this weekend. And that's what I just love about this country is that there's so much nature, and any direction you go, it's just beautiful.
Well, it is a big, I would say, a change of scenery for you. I mean, being
Yeah.
all the way north in Canada, a lot of white, and then a lot of green, green and blue. I mean, it's like a whole different contrast in terms of life spectrum here. But I have to say, I mean, that is exciting just to hear. I mean, I personally love nature. I definitely anything green, mountains, waterfalls, beautiful.
Yes.
Definitely the beach. I just love water and sea. I mean, I mentioned I cruise a lot because I love the sea. It just, very, it's just calming. I mean, you just be on the ship and just sit back and listen, especially at night. It's just the water. Similarly by the waterfall and that stuff. I mean, it's pretty good. And again, it is relevant to our discussion because I think part of yoga, it's an ancient thing. I mean, it's not new. Yoga has been around for centuries. And it has to do also with the mindset, the calm, the soothing, and all the stuff. And again, I'm not an expert, and I'll let you define that to us. But really, it's important because I think, to your point, you were doing these retreats, and then you fell in love with the place, and voila, that's it, you're done. And not everybody can do that. I mean, not everybody's just like, the hell with this. I'm actually out. This is it. But I do want to take a minute to talk about that because it is important for all, while we're talking about the fitness piece and the yoga and the new, I guess, formula of what you do, the idea of even you as an entrepreneur, as an innovator, and the idea of following your dream and doing what you're passionate, and that is important for people. See, I've had so many examples where people literally did that. They just took off and followed their passion and then dream, and they applied that, and they're living the life. Many of us are stuck, in jobs we don't like and do things that we don't love. And our environment sucks. And we're like, and just living the rat race, as we call it. And it's not fun. It's not healthy. And it's really talking about toxic environment. We live in that. And, but you can pursue happiness. You can pursue what you love and still make a living out of it, but enjoy your life. I mean, that's it, living as opposed to just surviving. And you're doing that. Thinking about the go ahead. Sorry.
No, I've realized I have a deep fear of missing out, like that word FOMO. But my FOMO isn't like a lot of people have FOMO of like, oh, that's really cool, like I'm missing out on that like little thing. I'm afraid of missing out on life. And I just see so many people like wasting their lives, and I can make that kind of judgment because like one of my best friends, his friend found out, like, he had this sore gum disease.
Mm.
He went to the doctor and found out he had leukemia, and it was showing up in his lungs, or sorry, in his gums, in his teeth, like in his gums. 2 weeks later, he died. 2 weeks. And this just happened just like a month ago. So it was just very recent. And my friend is still feeling very raw from it. And then, one of my best friends, his parents, his dad has been waiting for his mother to retire, and she finally retired, and they were about to take a big trip to Costa Rica for like a month and enjoy. Like 4 days before the parents were going to come to Costa Rica, the father realized he was really exhausted. He went to the doctor. Doctor said, your heart isn't pumping enough blood. We don't recommend you to travel. And so, it's like so many of us are waiting for that like special moment. When is that special moment? In yoga, we learn that special moment is always now. And so it's like, what are we waiting for in life? And I'm always kind of like asking myself that question, like, is this something I really want to do? If I want to do it, I just go do it.
That's the can-do attitude.
Can't wait for the right circumstance, because the right circumstance is now.
Well, but that's that. Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people, to your point, are waiting for a set of circumstances to happen, and it has, a lot of components, and unless all the components are ready, the opportunity is not there. Yet the opportunity can be there. It's just that you got to take partial pieces of it and make it work. But you hit on something that I live by as well, is that life is too short. Most people don't realize that. Now, I passed the 50 mark, and believe me, before that, I never thought about it the way I think about it now. Time is ticking, and doesn't matter how well you live and stuff. You want to do as much, you want to enjoy as much, and you want to live. That's the thing. And I have been, and I also, since I never believed in that, I have to wait until I retire to enjoy my life. That is not part of my vocabulary. And I want to drive that into the audiences and our listeners. It's you got to enjoy your life, because we never know.
Yeah.
When it's time to check out. That's a guarantee, but we don't have to think about that. We have to think about, let's enjoy what we have and do what we love. And, and enjoy our families, our people, whatever we do, whoever we love, whoever's around us, let's maximize those opportunities. And yes, you got to find what's working for you, what's going to do it for you, and just do it. And that's actually the true reality of things. If you wait for every single thing that you think as by the book prescribed, you got to get step A, B, C, D to get to what you want. Forget about it. It might take forever, and it may be too late at the time. And you said it, even if you're not dead, whatever, but you might not have the means financially, because now you're on retirement, maybe limited budget. Two, your health is not going to be, as ready and exciting sometimes as we age. I mean, things are not the same. You got aches, you got pain. I mean, obviously we're going to talk about that now, but you have a lot of things that can make you not be able to do the things that you could have done at a younger age, or while your health was still there. That's why, again, we want to keep people healthy and fit and fab by doing these things, by actually living your life, by enjoying, and by getting tips from people such as yourself, and helping us, guide us through, like, what can we do? We talk, there's the mental, there's the physical, there's all stuff. We talk nutrition, we talk all the things that are good for your health and well-being and living and lifestyle are important. And I think those are the topics that we actually tackle and address in these shows. But again, the angle that you have is important, because now we're going to talk about the deep dive, right? So yoga, first thing, again, just because no one has defined that to our audiences before, if you don't mind, can you please identify to us or define to us what is yoga and what it means, and a little bit historic about it? I mean, we talked that it's been ancient, but most people maybe don't know exactly where it started and the concept behind it. So that's the first thing. And then we're going to relate that to the pain. And I mentioned pain earlier because we ache, and when exercise, we ache. And I know that's a big discussion, because you are the creator of the concept. What is it called? Let me see.
A.Y.A.M.A.
Yeah, A.Y.A.M.A. There you go. So applied yoga anatomy, muscle plus muscle activation. A.Y.A.M.A. I love that. It's kind of ring to it. I don't know, but it sounds like mythical. All right. So let's talk about yoga. Definition of yoga. If there is one.
Well, I mean, yoga means a few things. Like if we're just talking about the root word yoga, it means to unite, to yoke, to bring together. And for me, what the promise of yoga is right in the beginning of the Yoga Sutras, which is sort of like the Bible, if you will, of yoga. It's 196 very short statements, short aphorisms, which say, they're very short, concise statements that say a lot. But, we're just talking about, living our life purpose, really, at the end of the day. We're talking about like embracing life. And yoga says two things. It says, one, within all of us, there's a purpose that is to be fulfilled. The ultimate purpose, goal of life is for us to know ourselves and to fulfill our dharma. And our dharma is our own individual life path. And so for every individual, it's very unique. And part of our job as humans is to find out, what that is, but then also fulfill life's purpose. And part of life's purpose is to know ourselves at every level and understand what life is really about. And so we all have that potential within us. And the second part of yoga is recognizing that for many of us, we're like just really poor, idiots, fumbling around and making our lives more complicated than they really are. We're really good at creating suffering for ourselves. And so where does that suffering exist? That suffering exists in our mind. And so the second part of yoga is about we need to remove that layer of suffering. And once we do, then we're able to tap into our life purpose. And so that's really a big part of what my own mission statement is about, is to help people get pain-free. And also then so that they can go out and manifest really and live their life purpose. And I see what happens when we're able to experience yoga. So, one of the things I said that yoga does is it unites. It's to yoke, to bring together. Well, what are we bringing together? We're bringing our consciousness into this moment, because the power of what we can become starts with the present moment, starts with the now. So yoga is ultimately the practices of yoga is to get us into the now. Because when we're not in the now, obviously it's a little cliche to say this, but when we're not in the now, we're either, fantasizing about a future that hasn't come, or we're dwelling either on the pain of the past or the pleasures of the past. Either way, we're not focused, where we are here. For us to kind of tap into that source, we need to get into the present.
Well, that's pretty good. It's pretty deep.
That's very deep.
But I love it, because to be honest with you, for the longest, I think, probably people watching and listening right now would agree. I mean, we know what yoga is in concept, but we know there is some spirituality to it. There is some lifestyle to it, but we're not really, understanding. I mean, the common folk may not know all the deep end of what it does and what it is. And it's rooted, to your point, there's more to it. And the idea that to connect, to be aware is a very vital element of our life, but we're not. You said it, we dwell on the past. We live in the past for the most part, oh my God, the life, blah, blah, blah. We dream of the future, but we miss the moment today. And tomorrow is never guaranteed. The past is gone. You can't do anything about it. Today, this moment is here. Let's make the best out of it. And so, again, these are not things, because, again, we hear yoga, we think you're going to a studio and you're doing stretches. I mean, really, that's kind of the first, probably if someone's watching, yeah, I think that's what I think. And again, that's just me being as maybe dumb about it, but really that's the perception, right? I go to the gym, I know they have yoga classes, I see them, they come with the mat, they do their stuff, they walk out. I mean, but you don't think, what is that, and how deep is that stuff, and the connection that has to do with their mind, their body, and like you mentioned, pain, and I think it came up a couple of times in the discussion here, and that's the other thing. There is that, and everything. Actually, I think the mind is a very strong piece of our life, and if we apply it correctly, everything else is better. But we don't do a good job with that to start. Then to your point,
my teacher says that the mind is the warden of your prison or the key to your liberation. So what you just said was very profound. And I think you were kind of dancing around it a little bit, but I think we need to just really say it for what it is, as, as leaders, as teachers, like, hey, dude, you are causing your own suffering. You don't have to suffer. You have created a prison within yourself, but you also have that power to set yourself free. Somebody got really angry with me the other day because I quoted scripture to them. They quoted scripture to me, so I quoted it right back to them. And I said, one of the things about scripture says God helps those who helps themselves. And really what that scripture is saying, that we all have that potential within us to liberate ourselves.
And somebody challenged that?
Yeah, they got very angry with me because then they have to be accountable for themselves. But that's a whole other discussion.
Well, I have to say, Aaron, listen, I don't care what belief you have. It is a fact. I think all the world religion has the concept of, we can ask God, we can pray, but you got to do it. You're on this earth.
You've got to do the work.
You got to do it. The action is yours. You have to take the steps. There's no such thing as nothing. Yeah, listen. May God send me some money. It ain't happening from the sky. He will give you the guidance. He'll give you whatever you need, but you have to take the physical approach to it. There is a physical aspect to this life. This is not, the hereafter, right? Or whatever the realm, that we might think about. But this is the reality of where we live in this life, this dimension does require work. If you don't eat, you're gonna get sick. Rules. If you don't sleep, you're gonna get sick. If you put yourself in harm's way, you're gonna get hurt. So if you don't work, you're not gonna make money. You're not gonna be able to do things. So those are things. I mean, again, people are entitled to their opinion. Granted, people sometimes get sensitive around the topics of religion. That's why we stay away from it. But the fact of the matter, there is no contradiction between spirituality, religion, and the life we live. I mean, you could find a balance, and I think we all have that balance, and we kind of know it. But to your point, the accountability factor is what drives us a little bit. We're like, and then there are people that are extreme where they just think that, your power, belief, faith, that's another story. I mean, yes, you have to be strong, but that's good. But again, that alone is not enough. It's just the life that we have. And so, to your point, the mind, we need to tell people, you gotta make it work. You gotta get it working. You gotta get it working, because it is a difference between you having depression, you maybe committing suicide, or you becoming an inventor, creator, and an influencer, right? It's just the way. I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's the same person. We can go one way or the other, depends on how we set ourselves, and the mind is powerful enough to do that. But so if we calm ourselves down and we just we talk negative, that self-talk and self-awareness is a negative spin, you're going to get drifted. If you have it in a positive way and you think positive, you're going to see it. Literally, that's going to manifest exactly what your thoughts are, going to manifest in reality, and you're going to find yourself surrounded with the environment. You're almost going to make the environment and create that environment that's going to keep you positive. On the flip side, if you're not tapping into that mind and get into it the wrong way, the outcome is going to be bad. Then you're going to get into like this, what the hell's going on? My world sucks. Well, and you can, and that's the good news is there is no time frame to this. You can be today that way. You can change it overnight, and it sounds crazy or cliche overnight, but you could literally, it's just a decision. Yes. Enough is enough. I want to have a better life. Tomorrow's a new day. You can walk out of a bad job. You can walk out of a bad relationship. You can find another new home. I mean, we have a nice globe. It's got a lot of, places you can move to. You're not confined to borders even. I mean, there are countries where you'd be more than welcome, there. And to live, look, I mean, you've made the leap from the north to the central, continent piece. It is not hard. You could do it. It sounds, some people's like, well, it's too hard. You might be like, loony because you're talking like, me. I don't know anyone, but I can tell you we can all do that. I've moved a few times from state to state, from continent to continent, for that matter, actually. So I know what that looks like, and I would do it in a heartbeat. And to be honest with you, I'm thinking about something like that right now. Because peace of mind is what I want. Living the life is what I want. So I think we talked philosophically about the yoga piece of it. Now let's talk about the physical piece of it, the actual effect of yoga on the body. Now, again, everybody works hard, works out. There is damage that we do, there's muscle, there's all this stuff, tension, and that's always a problem. I think if you're working out, you always have some pain. And so traditionally, we were always conditioned, and I know this, from my own previous experience. You got to do some stretching before you work out. You got to do some stretching, after you work out. You got to do some stretching in general to keep, good. You tense, whatever. I know you have a whole different approach to that, and you actually almost anti-stretching.
Well, my book is called Stop Stretching.
All right, good. So I mean, I try to be as nice as I can be, for our audiences. But the fact is, I mean, listen, this is the part of what we do is you want to bring the reality to things. And yes, I mean, listen, it's your angle, but it's working. And by the way, it's not the only angle. If people have the choice, you got 10,000 options of fitness. Pick whatever works for you. But at the end of the day, you at least you owe it to yourself to listen and learn. When we learn different options, we can pick and take whatever is going to be good for us. It's like a buffet of information. Take whatever you want, and that's okay. Make it, tweak it, make it you or your own. That's the good news. Now again, stretching, like I said, is an important piece. But you are almost like on the extreme side of where everybody sits on yoga.
Side. I'm telling you, stretching is going to hurt you.
Well, so let's talk about it. So why is stretching not recommended by you? And unlike everybody else that's in the industry, yoga or otherwise, they always focus on stretching. You got to get your tendons, nice and loose. Your muscles got to be good. Hot yoga is hot these days, right? You want to get into. Actually, I love steam rooms myself. I don't do stretching, but I just go there just to relax my muscles. I mean, I go to the gym. I go like 10 minutes, 15 before, and then I'm out. I'm already like good, so there's no damage, whatever. And then I finish. I go again another 20, 30 minutes. Then I get a nice shower. I'm good. But that's just a formula. But I don't do. Sometimes I do some stretching there. Now, but I would love to learn about what that does for us. Good or bad. And so that this is where A.Y.A.M.A is going to come in play.
So I got into yoga when I was about 18, and I very quickly started hurting myself. And so the solution when I started hurting myself was I would go to yoga teachers or gym, whatever, and they would say, you need to stretch more. And they would use words like you need to open your back, or you need to open your hamstrings, or you need to open your hips. And so I did. And I, every time I would, and I continued to hurt myself. And it took me 25 years to realize that the hurting was actually coming from the stretching. And because every time I would hurt myself, I would start to rest, and then I would start to stretch more, and then I would hurt myself. And it was very cyclomatic. And I mean, I dealt with like really bad crippling pain in different areas, where I was dealing with some structural issues. I started like studying muscle activation technique, which is a type of diagnostic tool taught by Greg Broskopf. It's based out of Denver, Colorado. Mm-hmm. And it's a very hands-on kind of approach. And I went through the training, and let me back up. I forgot one important piece of the story. Sorry. I ended up in a doctor's office, an orthopedic surgeon who wanted to do a spinal fusion on my lower back. And at that moment, I realized like what I was doing must be not correct. And I had to start seeking another solution because I was in pain and I was doing more yoga to get out of pain, but the pain was actually getting worse, and to the point where I was being told I might need a spinal fusion. So that led me into muscle activation technique, and I started studying it. And one of the things I realized really quickly was that in order for us to have a stronger body, we need a muscular system that's working. And more to the point, we need a strong neuromuscular system. So the neuromuscular system, what I'm talking about, is that communication between the brain and the muscles. That's really important. And so, like if you, for example, you are walking and you drop your keys, you've got to bend over and pick them up. Well, if all the muscles that are responsible for shortening are not shortening properly, then other muscles in the back start taking over. And that's why a lot of people, like, they hurt their backs when they bend over and pick up something stupid like a set of keys, or they sneeze and they hurt their back. You hear people that sneeze. Well, why is that? Because the neuromuscular system is not working. Their brain is not communicating with the muscles correctly. A lot of people are strong, but they're losing that strength because the brain isn't communicating, or more specifically, the central nervous system isn't communicating properly with the muscles. There's not this feedback loop. And that feedback loop has become disrupted. It has become deteriorated over time due to stress, trauma, and overuse. And so stretching is a kind of a stress. Let's use the hamstrings, for example. So the hamstrings, you see someone with tight hamstrings, they start to force those hamstrings to lengthen. Well, the real question was never asked in the first place. Why is the hamstring tight? So the body tightens up as a protective mechanism. The brain senses instability, and it tells the body to tighten up. It says tighten up. It's like an amber alert in the body. Tighten up, tighten up, tighten up. When you step on ice for the first time in winter, you don't really expect it, but you kind of slip a little bit. What does your body do? It tightens up. And so it's a protective mechanism. The hamstrings are tightening up because the body, or the brain more specifically, senses instability and there's muscular weakness. And so it can't communicate with those muscles to tell them to contract. So it tells whatever muscles it can to contract, in this case, the hamstring. So if we're going to stretch, one of the things that people have to understand is it's a violation of your body's own protective mechanism. That's the first point. The second point is that one of the things, and you being in the fitness world, you can appreciate this. All of us know, muscles need to shorten in order to work properly. And so that's number one. So if we're forcing muscles to lengthen, we're actually going against a muscle's natural function, which is to shorten. So that's point one. Point two is why is the muscle not able to lengthen on its own? Well, every muscle has a reciprocal action. So with the hamstrings, the opposite muscle is the quads. The quads are not shortening properly, and the hamstrings are tightening as a result. And what I have seen time and time and time again is that if we get the quads to start shortening, guess what? You also have the hamstrings starting to be able to lengthen naturally. And not only do the hamstrings lengthen naturally, but you also have stability at that joint. You have muscles that are actually working properly. And so whenever we stretch a muscle, if you're lying on your back, Hurricane, and I say, raise your right leg, and I take my hand to your heel, and I just start pushing that leg, and I come back and I test the force output of your hip flexors, of your psoas major, of your rectus femoris, of your quads. All those muscles will test dramatically weak. They will not have any force output. So you said earlier, in the fitness world, they say you should stretch before you work out. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do, because you take typical bodybuilders that are constantly stretching their pecs and stretching their delts and stretching their triceps. And then they go to the bench press and they start benching, 200 pounds of weight, but the muscles are not even working properly at that point. The pecs have shut down. All of the major muscles that are supposed to be lifting this weight are no longer working. So the best thing to do, and I've seen this actually since you brought it up, pre sort of workout stuff, the best thing you can do is just very slow, movements. Sometimes you see some, in CrossFit or whatever, they have these shoulder exercises. You bring your shoulders out, you bring your arms up, you make little circles. Doing any of that kind of stuff is going to be far more effective than stretching, because you're actually starting to prepare the muscle. If you want to use that word warm up the muscle, I don't like that word warm up, but you
I was going
can
to say that.
but a more effective terminology would be like you're activating the muscle. So that's kind of one of my key things is like stop stretching, start activating. You want to activate the muscle to get the muscle to do what it's supposed to do, which is develop that ability to contract and contract on demand.
That's a lot of stuff there, and it's funny because well, it is powerful stuff, and I want to go back to some stuff back there, but applied yoga anatomy, right? So that's the first
Yes.
3 letters, and then you have muscle activation, and I
Yes.
think you just defined for us muscle activation, in a very light way, meaning that again, it's what we commonly use as warm up. You want to get the muscle to get started, to get ready for what's coming next.
You think about like between your brain and your muscles, there's a telephone line. Okay. It's the nervous system. And for some of us that telephone line, just like telephone lines in the US and around the world, they become deteriorated. And so the telephone company has to come in and repair them. And so as we get older in our own body, the telephone lines between our brain and the muscles becomes deteriorated. When we're doing muscle activation, what we're actually doing is reinforcing that telephone line. We're not only reinforcing that communication system, but we're also strengthening that communication system. So that's essentially what we're doing. When we stretch, we do the complete opposite. We actually cut that telephone line. And so the brain no longer knows where those muscles are. Biomechanically, that's called proprioception. Proprioception is where the brain, at an unconscious level, knows where parts of the body are. But when we stretch, we cut that telephone line. There's a loss of proprioception.
It's funny. I'm listening to you, and something came out to my mind. Like when we work out, and like in martial arts, for example, I could literally just right now drop and do a nice little full stretch, right? Because I'm not thinking about it. But if I start thinking about it and do it slowly, it's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to be like jammed. And it's almost like creating that same thought in my mind, like because I'm already tensing up because I'm, anticipating it's happening. But if not, it's going to move. But then I wanted to just go back to your start, like the beginnings when you actually had those pains. Someone that's young today and at the gym and pumping and getting all excited, they might say like, well, I'm good. I don't feel anything, right? Well, I'm getting the pain, which is, I can endure that. I can get it. Yeah. You were young, you were doing yoga, and that's the other thing. You started in yoga, but you didn't feel it was that. But someone could have said, well, it's not the stretching, it's something else. How did you really, kind of clear that to those people? Because it was not anything else. It was that stretching that you were doing, because obviously now you're defining it, so we understand a little bit more about the dynamics between the connection and all the stuff. But at the time you didn't have that. So how did you get into like discovering this really illogical concept that everybody's using? And the next one, go ahead, Aaron.
No. But I was just going to say that there's kind of two people that played a big role in that. So it wasn't just like this light bulb. There was a few light bulb moments, but one of my the people that works on me is kind of like a physical therapist / chiropractor / everything else. But he had muscle activation technique and he used that as modality. And the light bulb moment was when he was working on me and he got my hip flexors strong. And he did a very passive stretch on me, which then he went back and tested the hip flexors and they tested weak. And I was like, oh my God, it happens that easily. Like you barely stretched me and yet all my hip flexors got weak like that. And it's when you feel that weakness go away, it's like, I love doing that test on people because when they feel their muscles strong and in literally Hurricane, in literally a second, I can turn off a muscle in somebody. And when you experience that, it's like, I'm never going to stretch again, because you realize like how crazy it is to do it. Sure, if you want to stretch, great, but you're going to be weaker. And there's a lot of like scientific studies that are starting to come out. It is worthwhile mentioning something, because you mentioned this a couple of times, like there's this kind of like thing out there, like you should stretch to prevent injuries. There are no scientific studies to prove that stretching prevents injuries. There's absolutely none. What there are, though, is two things. One, there's either studies saying that stretching does nothing, or two, that stretching actually debilitates muscle function. And this is some of the studies that are starting to come out. They're testing athletes who stretch, and sort of the number of minutes that they lose muscle function somewhere ranges, depending on the study, ranges between 30 minutes to 90 minutes. And that's not how you want to start working out. That's not how you want to go and compete, in games. And then, some people like use the example of like, well, gymnasts stretch all the time. Gymnasts have to stretch. Well, actually, if you look at like, an Olympic lineup, all you can see is like Olympic athletes who have ACE bandages, knee braces, elbow braces, wrist braces, ice packs, heat packs, at 22 years old. And you never, ever, ever see a gymnast like pass, like a competing gymnast at that level past the age of 24, 26, and definitely not past 28. Because their body is just broken at that point from all of that like overstretching, and then the force demand that is placed upon their muscles. And so when I really got into yoga, like that's what happened to me as I was stretching, but also putting all of this force demand on my body.
Well, thank you. So that leads me to one differentiator. So stretching is the term we used. What about flexibility? I mean, some people, it's almost synonymous to me. I mean, you stretch to get flexible, and we hear that all the time.
Sure.
I mean, you talked about gymnasts, and they basically are very flexible in a way.
Sure.
But to your point, we do actually, you're right on the money there, because I mean, yeah, you cannot. You almost can see that everywhere. There's always an injury, and you got
ballerinas. Ballerinas by the age of 24. 25, I mean, they just don't survive, and most of them have to, if they do, they need shoulder surgery, knee surgery, surgery.
Well, it's amazing that you said that, because that actually brought me back to a show that I had about a year ago with Dr. Yas. Is from Florida, and he was really adamant about his method, which only reinforced that all the pain we have is because our muscles are not strong. And then I've had other shows where we talked about the strength training and building the muscle, which is what helps, literally everything else, the pain, everything goes. So this is really in line with that philosophy. And, and frankly, the more I'm hearing it, the more it makes sense, because when you actually work out and you pump and everything, your muscles, to your point, they get, they tighter, but because they're building, it's a whole different approach. You don't get that.
But muscles should never get tight. Okay. Muscles should always have an ability to contract and contract on demand. A tight muscle, if a muscle becomes tight, it's always a sign of muscle weakness. Remember, like the hamstrings get tight because the quads are not contracting properly. So a couple of points, but one, muscles, and this is something that we as you as bodybuilders and fitness trainers, and have to remember the fundamental premise of a muscle. Muscle's job is to move bones and to hold joints in place. And it does that by shortening. It doesn't do that by lengthening. If a muscle does become tight, then there's a sign of muscle weakness. But the word that I don't like using the word flexible, because with flexibility always leads to instability, and instability always leads to injury. So flexible people always get injured. What we want to do is develop healthy range of motion. And the way that we do that in this methodology is by improving muscle function, because muscles move bones. So, you take somebody who brings their arm up to the sky, and I see this all the time in my yoga trainings. Like some people can only bring the arm, like this high. And so then they think like, well, I can't lift it higher because of all these muscles that are tight. So they go up to a wall and try and stretch it out. But what's really moving the muscle up? What are the muscles that are moving this arm up? Well, we're looking at traps. We're looking at serratus anterior. We're looking at, posterior delt. If those muscles are not shortening properly, you're going to have limited range of motion. If there's tightness there showing up, it's because those muscles are not working. The traps, the anterior serratus, the delts, maybe a levator scapular. Like these muscles just are not able to shorten properly. As a result, the front side is showing up as tight.
Listen, that's a crash course on definitely what should go right as opposed to go wrong. Because
Yes.
I think that and it does make sense, because you're right. I mean, when you lift your arm, it's everything in the back that's working and all the stuff, and it's not necessarily
Absolutely.
now you might have some rotator cuff problems, whatever, but and by the way, those can still be, I think, because of the same problems that you have. I mean, I've seen
Absolutely.
therapy work, and it does, to your point. You gotta, when you go to therapy, they do give you machines, they do give you weights to actually build and re-energize your muscles and get them stronger enough so you can do those movements. So it is amazing. Like, again, it's perception of what we kind of see and hear all the time, and then we start really diving into with expertise. And by the way, I to be honest, I'm listening to you right now. As much as it sounds very controversial from the standard, I guess, opinion, you are not actually that far out. I mean, you're actually talking about real, muscle, and that's actually, again, it's confirming what other experts have actually stated before, and it's confirming the idea of like muscle building and strength training, all this stuff. So I think it's pretty right on the money. I don't
know. Oh, sorry. No, I just was saying, like, one of my things that drives me is starting to try and create a conversation about some of our erroneous perceptions. Like, even like I'll turn on YouTube and hear a fitness trainer say, we need to open up the hips. Well, I mean, that's a crazy thing to say, because if you think about opening up the hips, what does that really mean? You want to dislocate your hips? So the muscles in the hips actually need to shorten to keep that joint really strong and stable. And if you've got tightness, again, tightness is, as we've just discussed, is always a sign of muscle weakness. So the question is, what is weak? What is not activating? And so there's a lot of like erroneous perceptions and pseudoscience that has kind of been thrown in this. And so what I'm hoping to do is like, further the conversation so that we can actually start to say things that have scientific merit and not just like open the hips.
No, listen, I love it. I mean, it's funny. You made me laugh when you said that. I was like, you want to dislocate them? I can just hear that pop there. Not good. Not good. But you are making real sense here, and I think I love what you said about the discussion and just kind of get further in it, because you are bringing some good valid points. And yeah, maybe that's because that's how it's been, and because people are learning it maybe the wrong way. They're not really deep diving and understanding the dynamics that go. I mean, literally applied anatomy. I think yoga anatomy. I mean, the title sounds like what it means. I mean, it's really defining itself. So it's not just the anatomy; it's applying it and understanding within the yoga context. And then the muscle
applied also means like experiential. And so my goal is, we're talking like we just mentioned muscles like the psoas, and your listeners are going, oh my God, what is the psoas and where is it? Why is it so important? And I don't want to be just talking about these muscles like theoretically. I want people to actually feel it in their body. Like when I get people activating their psoas, I say, here, this is where it is. Bring your finger in. Now, do you feel that popping, that muscle like engage? Yes. Oh my God, there's my psoas. and then they like lift their leg up and they feel the psoas working. So it's really becoming more experiential. And I find like when people experience something, that becomes more real and attainable in their bodies.
Well, so thank you. Now let's talk about that whole approach itself. Like, so someone that joins your system and your method, what is like, how does that work? I mean, let's say someone like me who may or may not be as potentially in the right aspect right now and needs some help to I mean, I'll probably have to test to see like what's working, what's not working.
Sure.
So like someone that comes to you like, hey, listen, I need to get stronger, right? And I need you to help me. Again, to that's the other thing. Like most people think yoga is like, it's just this thing that you do as a nice little, cool thing, and you just it's more social these days than anything else. There's that aspect too, but really you are taking it to the next level. You're taking it to like almost like, I want to fix you up, and you're going to get better at what you do. Your muscles are going to get stronger. Your body motion is going to be stronger. And that's what we want. We want to be able to move. You want to have, no pain. I mean, pain is really a killer. I mean, no one likes to have, any pain anywhere in their body. And when you have it, to your point, you're either patching or you're like trying to get things done, and that's not good. So if I join right now your method, what would be like the steps that you will put me through to get me to a better place? I mean, is there an assessment? Are there any steps that I need to do? Like, I mean, obviously I'm sure that's not overnight that I'm going to get stronger, right? So what are, for our audiences, what are some of these elements that you actually, I guess, apply or, use to get people from, the point where they are not really in the best shape to a better shape?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that my goal is, you use the word in shape, and I just want to kind of clarify what that means, because I know what you mean. But I'm not like here to help people necessarily lose weight. Like, that's not my lane too.
Yeah. That's not what I meant. I meant like in shape in terms of muscle.
But I just wanted to be clear, like this is not like a system to lose weight or something. It's a system to help people understand their bodies, to learn about why they're weak and what to do about it. And, and it is a process, like, and I've created like, systems. I have a 15-day challenge. And so in that pain-free challenge, I take people through the different parts of their body. Like one day we'll focus more on back extensors. One day we focus more on hip flexors. One day we focus on relaxation. Like you were saying, like you don't typically stretch after workout, but you do go into the steam room and rest and relax. That is so important. Like people always ask me, like, what do you recommend after a workout? One, don't stretch because you're already activated, hopefully. Number two, relax and take that time in the steam room and take that time to relax and restore. The body, has an incredible capacity to restore itself, if we give it the chance. So my goal, I don't work with people necessarily one-on-one. I do offer these things. I hope they're a stepping stone to either people learning to apply this into their life, that again, the applied yoga anatomy, apply it into their life. I have a great book. I've got like a bunch of videos as resource materials. My book is one of the best books out there on anatomy. I say that without any shame because there's a lot of anatomy books out there that are just teaching you nothing. Like they show you where the muscles are, but they don't really show you like, okay, what are the actual techniques that you can use to start activating these muscles? What are the techniques to engage the brain, like reconnect the brain to these muscles? And then people do these things and then they go, oh yeah, that's where my psoas is. That's where my rectus femoris is. Oh, that's where my longissimus is. And then they start to know more anatomy than their fitness trainer.
Yeah, that must suck though. At least for the trainer, I guess.
And then the ultimate hope is that people will start coming do trainings with me. And in the trainings, they can start to like learn more about their bodies and take it to a different level. So that's kind of like what I'm offering at this moment, because I'm in Costa Rica, so people can't really come down and do an assessment with me. But I do one-on-ones if they want to. So
if you're in Costa Rica, check them out. Well, but that's important, right? So yeah, I mean, again, I think with technology today, it is possible to do this, and I think you can help people around the world. And so that was going to be a question, and we're in it right now. So fact is that you have the book, you have the guides, you have the actual system where you go through this process with people, so you can actually guide someone. They will, and so if they go to your site, they'll be able to actually register, I guess, for this program, and you'll get them through it, and they'll see some tremendous result. In you're talking about 2 weeks challenge, right? 15 days.
Yeah, I have a couple of different offerings. One, but they can access it all on my website, yogiaaron.com. And they can find out. I have a ton of resource material on my website. So,
well, you mentioned the book. So, what's the name of the book?
Stop Stretching.
Oh, that's right. You did mention that earlier.
It's called Stop Stretching. It's available on Amazon. We just hit 75 like 5-star reviews today. So, or
Nice.
77, sorry. So I'm very, very, very excited about that.
Listen, and we will share that with the audiences because I think it's important to have access to information. Again,
Yeah.
I always say this, and I'm going to preface this one more time. Folks, whatever you're listening, the opinion that we have is, again, it's an opinion. It is these different methods out there. You can pick all you want. Everybody has the right to pick what they want. But the idea is that at least you have access to different information sets. And then it's up to you to make, that nice, I guess, informed decision of whatever program you want to be in. But at least you have the access to those resources. I think that's the important part about what we do here. I think that's what Aaron is doing. He has a method, and you know what? It may be for you, may not be for you. But the only way to find out is to actually, at least entertain it, see it, read about it, and get more. So that's one. Now, I know from any exercise model or methodology or any type of things that we do for the body and mind, as we talked about both, nutrition, other things are important. So what is your take on those things? I mean, because there's whenever you think about fitness, wellness, and this, you think about nutrition, detoxification, sleep, all the other stuff. So how do you connect all those things in terms of your program and your approach?
Oh my God. I grew up in a healthy, quote unquote, life household.
That's good.
My mother was always cramming vitamins down our throats, even when we were like 9, 10 years old. What was that? A cough? Here, take tons of vitamin C.
That's my woman.
I'm a huge, we could have that's like, a 4 or 5 hour conversation, so I do think, what I really try to teach people and what I endeavor to bestow, I guess, upon people when they come to Blue Osa, my yoga retreat, is really what I believe, and that's trying to live a clean lifestyle as possible. And that's kind of a loaded word. Like, what does clean really mean? Mm-hmm. But from my definition, drink lots of water, give yourself an internal shower 8 times a day.
Always.
Eat as fresh food as possible. Part of the sister science to yoga is Ayurveda. And so Ayurveda really is they're saying a few things, but one of the things at the end of the day is eat foods that are alive as possible, eat foods that are fresh. I think some people always have this kind of joke, like if you go into a grocery store, go around the circle of it. Don't go in the middle,
I've heard that before. That's where they give the produce and legumes and all the vegetables, eh?
Yeah, and just trying to live the cleanest lifestyle in body, whatever floats your boat. And as I get older, I like you, just reached 51.
Hey, wow, my club. I love it. It's all good, baby.
So I'm always kind of asking myself, like these days, my joints are not what they used to be, partly because of stretching. And but I love hiking. I still hike in the mountains. And this weekend when I take my friends, we're waterfall chasing. We're going to be doing a ton of hiking. And so I'm always asking myself, what are things that are making me stronger? And what is going to help me stay stronger? And so that's always part of my process. One of my favorite commentators, I won't mention him just in case I might offend somebody, but one of my favorite commentators always says, he doesn't drink, he only has 2 cocktails a week. He's maybe 3. He says he just can't do it anymore. And so, I think we have to just listen to our bodies as well and tune into what is really going to support us, because at the end of the day, we're here to fulfill our purpose, and we can't fulfill our purpose if we're disabled on the couch because our knees are inflamed or we're suffering from some sort of, hip problem or lower back problem. We want to do things that are intelligent, that are going to actually make us stronger, not weaker in life.
Listen, we're not even going to your point. Hey, by the way, you're welcome to come back and we can have a whole discussion about nutrition and get that. So, hey, this is your platform now. We can do that. But no, I appreciate, the answer about that. And I think, and again, it's very clear. Nutrition is part of what we do. And to your point, hydrating is a key element. So, water is liquid of life, right? We need it. And understanding your body, understanding where you are, to your point. Yeah, I mean, you know, and we've had many shows also. We talked about even like, you know, when we're young, we party, alcohol, the whole nine. All that stuff is maybe good for a period, but it damages your lifestyle and I mean your inner body and stuff. Now you can get out of it, weed it out of it, but it's got to take some conscious decision making, and sometimes we're not ready yet. We still live that, but then the question is, how do you want to live the rest of your life? And I think that's a question that we have to ask at any given moment. We need to ask that question: what happens if my body is not doing? Yeah, your mind's going to be still doing what it needs to do, like it's going to be dreaming. Yeah. But the body is that this is the avatar. so you want to make sure the avatar is functional so you can do all those movements that you want, those activities. And if you're not doing it right, then that's a problem. So to your point, I think the concept of understanding dynamics of the body. I love the idea of muscle activation. You know, we refer to it as warm up, but I like that better now. So I'm going to use that. Yeah, so I'm gonna quote you like, you know, as Yogi Aaron says, muscle activation. But I like it. I mean, it is. I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, you're really activating your muscle. I mean, it's dead, it's quiet, and then all of a sudden you're getting into action. So you got to get some motion there to get, you know, all those things working and loose, right? And that's good. And then you know, but to your point, it's not really stretching. It's really just getting those elements. And by the way, those movements that you did, those are like some of the basic elements in martial arts. we used those, you know, like, you know, I remember when that was a kid, that was like, you know, the first thing you do, like, you know, your this, your elbows, I mean, your shoulders.
It makes sense, right? Because you want your muscles like ready to do what you're. Here I am pretending I'm not into martial arts at all.
No, that was good, but that's typical. Like, yeah, chop chop. That's funny. Hey, to each his own, right? but listen, but it's all connected. It's all connected. As a matter of fact, martial arts has a level of meditation and you know, relaxation mode and all the stuff. So there is that too, and it's okay. These are all ancient practices, and
martial arts is sister science to yoga. And I have a lot of friends that were into yoga and kind of veer into martial arts because it's there's so many practices that are so applicable, you know, not just for the mind, but for how we approach life and then also making our body stronger. So I didn't mean that. I was just like, you know, like I'm pretending that I'm into martial arts and I'm not.
that was good. That was good. Listen, we are still an entertaining platform, so a little entertainment is not going to hurt anyone. You know, I think we'll take that. You know, for what it's worth. It's fun. You know, people don't get too serious. Sometimes you got to have some fun. I mean,
you got to laugh.
Well, that's a key. It's medicine, right? I mean, you know, endorphins kick in. You know, your muscles are nicer than you're like tense. You know, so why not, right? And I love it. I mean, and by the way, thank you for bringing a laughter. I think we'll make some people laugh today.
My teacher taught me, if you're going to be a mess, be a happy mess.
Well, you know, here's the thing. We can do the experiment. We're just going to laugh, you and I, for 5 minutes. Everybody's going to laugh. I don't care. Whatever they are, whatever the day is looking like, they're going to be like, oh, I'm laughing. Why? Just because it's contagious, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, so listen, I mean, I think we're coming to the end of the hour here. Well, I think we just about exceeded the time frame. But so as always, I want to ask you, like, what would be like a last advice for our audiences for this show today? Like something that, you know, we will leave our listeners and viewers today with, something wise.
What? Oh my Lord, you're putting me on.
Well, I'm just kidding. It doesn't have to be wise.
I could say two things. Okay. First of all, you know what I'm going to say. Stop stretching. There's some pearls of wisdom right there. If you want to mess yourself up more, keep stretching. No, but seriously, I like I said at the very top of the hour, that I believe and in yoga believes, or the premise of yoga is that we all enter this life with a purpose. And, you know, there's a yoga sutra that says that the greatest sorrow of humankind is to die without fulfilling it. And so, you know, one of the things I do every day is I wake up and ask myself, am I living in my purpose in this day, in this moment? And I go to bed feeling full of gratitude that I had the opportunity to live my purpose. And I think that those two things are so important. Like, we need to live more in gratitude in life. And so many of us have so many expectations of how the world should be, but we never really stop to have gratitude for how life is, and that we had this chance to live this day. So I always kind of bookend my days with those kind of two thoughts, like starting, how am I going to live this day in purpose and in fullness and awareness, and at the end of the day, like just taking a moment to pause and go, yes, I lived my best day.
Aaron, I think that's as wise as it gets. That was very wise. And I think, I mean, it's really deep. And I think we all have to reflect on that nice little message that you left us with here, because, gratitude is great. Understanding and fulfilling our lives and our life purpose is important. And every day is a new day, and we have that shot at doing it. And I think you can't get better advice than that. I mean, I think everybody can take that to the bank and just apply it. And, if we're unable to do it, then we'll have to find a way to do it. So thank you for that. I think that is right on the money. It's right, like, bullseyes there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, listen, you keep doing what you're doing. You keep fulfilling life and enjoying it. And you know what? Don't forget about us. If I do come to Costa Rica, I will check you out, dude. I'll be like,
and I'll
I'm
take
in town.
I'll take you waterfall hunting.
And we'll do more. We'll do that, and we'll do a show right there. And actually, maybe we can do a live.
I would love that. I love that. Absolutely. Right. And I'll show you what happens when you stretch. I'll get my hands on you and actually show you. So yes, it'll be a win-win.
Listen, I promise you, if I am in Costa Rica, which it is on the to-do list, I'm not sure when, but it is in the near future. We will connect to that, and we will make sure that we have an actual event where we do this live, and we'll record it for our audiences, because sometimes I actually do test things on me, and I love that, because that's how you learn, by testing, by doing, by feeling, the stuff. Yeah. So hold me to that one, and I'll hold you to it.
Thank you so much, Hurricane.
My pleasure, dude. It's been a true pleasure, fun. I hope our audiences have benefited from the discussion. Again, folks, whatever your opinion is, this is not insulting anyone's, methods or thoughts. It's just the idea that there's a different angle, and it does have its merits. And as you hear the actual science behind it, it does add up. So again, do your research, check out the book, check the stuff. There's no reason why not. And the rest is history. That being said, hope you enjoyed all this. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic. Hurricane H here. Bye for now.